Good morning. Welcome to Kilut Shari Torah's daily review of Maimonides' 613 Mitzvot, the Rambam's Sefer HaMitzvahs. We are going through now the positive commandments one by one and examining them in some depth and detail. Also, it being Elul, we are sounding the shofar every day to remind us of the high holidays which are nigh at hand. So here you go. Next two mitzvahs that Maimonides mentions are honoring parents and respecting parents. Two separate mitzvahs here. Let's draw the distinction. The first mitzvah here of honoring parents commands us to give honor, as the title implies. Honor your father and your mother. Kabedes avicha v'esimecha. That is on our top 10 list here, which I'll pan upwards, and you should see it there in the top in the 10 commandments. Honor your father and your mother. The Sifra says, what does it mean to honor them? Provide them with food and drink, with clothing, with warmth, guide their footsteps when they are old and infirm. The sages further point out that the obligation to attend to one's father and mother should be joyfully performed, since if one were to serve his parents with the finest of foods in a surly manner, that would be punishable. To what extent is one obliged to honor father and mother? If they were to take his purse full of gold and throw it into the sea in front of him, one must nevertheless refrain from giving them any manner of offense, neither causing them distress nor taking umbrage at their conduct. We must accept the scriptural decree and keep our peace. The sages speak with great reverence in the Mechilta of this commandment. Rebbe says the honoring of one's father and mother is very dear in the sight of God, by whose word the entire world came into being. For he declared honoring them to be equal to honoring God. Fearing God, the parents to be equal to fearing God, and cursing one's parents to be tantamount to cursing God. God forbid. Respecting parents is the other mitzvah here, the second of two. By this injunction, we're commanded to have awe, reverence, fear, respect for our parents, to regard them with the deference due to one whose punishment we fear, like a king, and to treat them as we treat those of whom we whose displeasure we dread. It's contained in the words, each person should fear his father and his mother, and which the Sifra says, what does it mean? Not to sit in their seat, not to speak before them, or to contradict their words. We find this also in Tractate Kiddushin. To what extent are we to have awe, reverence for one's parents? If, while dressed in elegant clothes and presiding over a distinguished assembly, one's father or mother were to come upon him and tear his clothes, if, moreover, they were to strike him on the head and spit at him, he must refrain from giving them offense and holding his peace. And he must hold his peace for awe and dread of the all-highest King of Kings, who has thus commanded him. In other words, we're supposed to remain unflapped in the face of whatever our parents may throw our way. We shouldn't know from such things. This should be a very easy mitzvah, please God, for everyone, both while our parents are still in this world and when they've gone on to the next. Since we're speaking about mitzvahs and parents and all that, the next mitzvah is Pru Uravu, which we know very well from the story of Adam and Chava from Gan Eden, from the beginning of Genesis, which we'll come to in a couple of weeks. Amir Tashem, be fruitful and multiply. This mitzvah instructs us to be fruitful and multiply for the perpetuation of the species. This is the law of propagation and is contained in these words, which we've said, Pru Uravu. The Gemara says on the night of a wedding, the bridegroom is exempt from reciting the Shema because he's engaged in fulfilling a commandment. If you'd like more clarification about this, please discuss it with any of the participants in our essential Talmud shir. We have discussed this in great length and depth. The provision of this commandment is explained in the 6th chapter of Yevamos. It is incumbent upon men. In other words, they have the obligation, duty to do their best to be fruitful and multiply. It does happen that not every family is blessed with children. Nevertheless, we have an obligation to do what we can, reasonably speaking, to ensure we fulfill this mitzvah. It's an interesting question, given the expenses and what they are, not necessarily in Canada, but perhaps in other locales. Israel also has very good support for assisted reproduction, IVF, and so on. To what extent is a person obligated to spend their own money to attempt to fulfill this mitzvah? Interesting question for contemporary times. Okay, so we'll leave it there, and we will talk about the laws of marriage and the relations between men and women tomorrow. So please join us for that. Meantime, have a good day.